I studied modern languages at Clare, French and German, though really I always had a greater leaning towards German. But in fact, because of that, I graduated only in '73. I did an extra year and I studied German in Freiburg. And then I did 2 more years. I got the Mellon Fellowship. I did 2 years at Yale, so I only had to face up to the job market in '75, '76. And I think actually, it's a long time ago, my memory's very poor these days, but I think initially I'd hoped to go into journalism, probably because my father was a journalist, but that didn't work out. So I then quickly diverted into the civil service, and from '76 until '96, I worked as a civil servant in what was then the Department of the Environment. But after 20 years, I decided I wanted actually to use my German more fully. So I had got, meanwhile, qualifications as a translator. And I left the civil service and worked as a translator for 15 months, actually an in-house translator with Redland PLC, a name you may recall. It was a British construction company. When I joined it, it boasted that it had a proud history of independence for 75 years, but within a year of joining, it was taken over by a French company, Lafarge. They closed down the head office, and that included my job as well. So I then, strangely, went to work for the Institute of Actuaries, but in their secretariat, so in an administrative role. I was there for 5 years, and finally, though, from 2003 until last year, I worked in the House of Lords. They have a large support staff, and as you know, most of the work in Parliament is done actually in committee rather than in the chamber. The House of Lords has about 24 committees, so I was taken on as an advisor to one of their committees, and that was great, actually. It was the best job that I'd done, and I enjoyed it greatly. It was in inverted commas power without responsibility, so that was fine. I retired last year, and there we are. So I think I'm working through the questions that were suggested by Amin. And so I suppose what was distinctive about my career was working in the public sector, which I always enjoyed. I thought, generally speaking, I may have been deluding myself, but I thought I was doing something worthwhile. But as I just said, when I was working in the House of Lords as a committee advisor, that was great. That was all about analysing secondary legislation and then providing some sort of comprehensible reports on it for the House. That was good fun. And I think the other strand as well probably was my enjoyment of and interest in languages, particularly German, which of course went beyond just the language into the history and culture. So, Roger, you were saying, you know, what advice would we give to people starting today? That is quite difficult, but this may be a special pleading, but I would say learn another language. And I think, frankly, given the desultory state of affairs in this country now, learning another language is more important than ever. So for what it's worth, that would be my advice.